Hello, everyone. I hope you have had an amazing day too. I know I have. It has flown by. I am so glad that you're here for the final session of the day. My name is Meghan Newberry, and I'm a leadership development coach at CSC here in Wilmington, Delaware. I'll be moderating the question and answer portion of our conversation today. So I'll be back in a little bit. At this time, I am thrilled to welcome Diane Rogerson from one of our Millsummit Impact sponsors, JPMorgan Chase, who will be introducing our keynote speaker this afternoon. Diane, over to you.
Thank you, Megan, and welcome to everyone. So happy to be here. I've been watching the Millsummit site and looking at your agenda, and it looks like really exciting material and conversations and discussions that have been going on. So I'm sure you've been enjoying yourself. I'm really honored, and JPMorgan Chase is honored to continue to be a supporter of Spur Impact and the Millsummit. We've sent many of our employees there virtually this year, of course, and one of our great associates, Ashley Chance, is actually one of the co-chairs for the event this year. The Millsummit is one of the largest and best conferences in the country that we've found from a leadership and professional development perspective, focused on all of you as young professionals. So thank you for watching, and hopefully you can use the Millsummit to connect with other attendees, learn more from world-class speakers and experts like Jaclyn. So let me tell you a little about Jaclyn today. She is a life coach, a motivational speaker, a best-selling author of a book, Stop Getting in Your Own Way. And we were talking a little bit before we started today, how that is one of my favorite phrases for coaching, motivating young talent here at JPMorgan Chase as well. So it just so resonated with me when I got a chance to talk to Jaclyn and meet Jaclyn. She's passionate about helping people create the life they truly desire. And at the old age of 21, she started her business from her dorm room in Georgetown, which is just amazing, Georgetown University. She's spoken at over 125 corporations, conferences, and universities in 7 countries. And she's a TEDx speaker, which I got to listen to as well and was very inspirational. So just a little flavor of what I know you're all going to hear today. She's been featured by Forbes, Elite Daily, Bustle, and Washington Business Journal. Wow. And her book has been featured on Good Morning Washington. You can connect with her on the Millsummit app and through her website, www.JaclynDiGregorio.com. And she's going to tell you a lot more about how to connect with her going forward as well, because I'm sure you're going to have a lot of great questions for her once she shares her story and her insights. So enough from me, Jaclyn. You are the main show. Thank you for being here, and we're looking forward to it.
Thank you so much, Diane, for the kind introduction. Welcome, everyone. When I was in 2nd grade, I had a teacher who was known for not giving any O's. And O's stood for outstanding. They were the highest grade that you could possibly achieve in any class. So 8 years old, I go into 2nd grade, and I decided that I was going to be the first person to ever receive an O in Mrs. Gutteridge's class. I worked very hard all year on my grades and doing my best to be the best possible student I could be. And report card day comes, and I see that I had 2 O's. At 8 years old, I hadn't yet learned the lesson of being humble, so I told everyone. I told my friends, I told my friends' parents, I called my aunts and uncles, my grandma, and before I knew it, word had spread around my small town that Jaclyn DiGregorio got 2 O's in Mrs. Gutteridge's class. So not long after that, my mom gets a call from Mrs. Gutteridge herself, and she asks why Jaclyn is telling everyone that she got 2 O's when in reality, she only got proficient, just like everyone else. And my mom says, well, Jaclyn came home and she was so proud of herself that I didn't have the heart to tell her that those 2 O's were 0 days late and 0 days absent. Now, this story is so important because there are 2 types of people in the world. There are people who see zeros and there are people who see O's. And today we're going to be talking about how you can become the kind of person who sees O's. who sees failure as opportunity rather than a roadblock, who sees challenges as something that you have the capability to work through and change your circumstances rather than something that is fixed and unchangeable in your life. And the first step to becoming a person who sees O's is knowing what you want for your life. Because a person who sees O's creates their dream life. They create the life that they genuinely desire, versus a person who sees zeros settles for less than they're capable of. So in order to become a person who sees O's, the first step is to find clarity on your vision. So on this slide, I have an example of a vision board that I created. And that's just one way you can express your vision graphically if that inspires you. So we're going to go through a little exercise to start off this conversation to help you become more clear on your vision. I want you to know that what my vision is for my life is going to be different than what your vision, what Diane's vision is, what Meghan's vision is, what Val's vision is, and what every single one of your visions are, because we're all unique human beings. And it's important to give yourself permission to want what you want and to not feel so afraid of these big dreams and goals, because if they were placed inside your heart, it means that you already have the potential inside of you to bring those dreams to fruition. You have the skills, or you have the ability to learn the skills to make those goals and dreams happen. Otherwise, they wouldn't be in your heart in the first place. So I want everyone to sit comfortable in your chair. If you can, plant your feet on the ground. It always helps. Place your hands on your lap if that feels good to you, and close your eyes. We're going to do a short little visualization about your vision for your life. Take a deep breath in and out. One more in and out. I want you to imagine that you have just woken up in a day in your life, 10 years in the future. You open your eyes. Where are you? What does your bedroom look like? Do you hear any noises? Maybe you hear birds chirping outside your window. Maybe you hear the sound of the ocean kissing the edge of your house. What does that look like? Take in anything that comes to mind, any sounds, smells, tastes. If you grab your sip of morning coffee, anything that helps you get a clear picture, just take it all in. Now you go downstairs in the morning. It's time to have breakfast. What does that look like? What is your morning routine? Do you exercise? If so, do you walk? Do you do a workout class? Do you do yoga? What does that look like? How much time do you have in the morning before you start work? And what does that look like? And when you do start work, what do you do? What is lighting you up that's on your calendar on this day in your life 10 years from now? It looks like you have a really exciting meeting in the afternoon, something that you've been working towards for a really long time. What is that meeting for? Just allow yourself to take in any visions that come to your mind about that meeting, about your work day, about the way you feel. Take it all in. In the evening, you have a dinner planned with the most important people in your life to celebrate something. It could be personal, it could be professional. What are you celebrating? Who is there with you? What kind of food are you eating? What does it smell like? What does it taste like? What are you wearing? What's everyone else wearing? What does the room look like? Allow yourself to take in as many details as you can, or if no details come to mind, just allow the feelings to carry you. That's okay too. And as you end your day with your evening routine, so happy that you are living your dream life. Your body feels overwhelmed with gratitude. As you lay your head down to the pillow, you feel tears of joy swelling up in your eyes because you know that you truly are living your dream life, the best possible life that you could imagine for yourself. You made it happen. And you are here living it. And you just couldn't feel more grateful that everything has added up to this. And you close your eyes and fall asleep very peacefully. And when you feel ready, you can open your eyes. If you have a notebook handy, I want you to just take a few seconds and write down anything that stood out from your vision. Sometimes people have something that maybe never came through to them. They never even knew they wanted. That was so clear in a vision. I remember I did this visualization one time and I saw myself cooking dinner for my future children. And I realized how important it was for me to become a good cook. And so I took up cooking as a hobby because of a visualization I did. So sometimes new things will come through. Sometimes goals you've had for a really long time will come through, but you just want to anchor them in, write them down. So jot down anything that you feel inspired to write down that's going to help you remember your vision. And also I want to say that you have permission to change your vision anytime you want. So this should not be filled with any fear, any anxiety. Your vision is actually going to change over time, because when you take action, when you put yourself in the position of making this vision a reality, you're going to learn more about what you want and what you don't want, what you maybe thought you wanted and how that's different from what it maybe looks like. And your vision is going to evolve as you evolve. So it's a good thing for it to change. It's totally normal. And if you were a little bit unsure, that's okay too. I remember doing this exercise when I worked with my first life coach ever, and I was so unsure, and 10 years felt really, really far. So if next week feels better, or 2 months, or the rest of this year feels better, start there. Don't put any pressure on yourself. Take it one step at a time. The clearer you can get, the better. But wherever you are right now is where you're meant to be and is the clarity you are meant to have. And the additional clarity is going to come as you take action. Which brings me to step 2. So now that you have clarity, what do? Well, you go for it. You don't need to have it all figured out, but what you do need to do is take action. So many people wait. They wait to pursue their dreams and goals. They wait to take action. They want to have it all figured out. They want things to be perfectly aligned and added up. Nothing is ever going to be perfectly aligned. Nothing is ever going to add up. The timing's never going to be right. The way that you're going to get there is by starting. It's impossible to get there if you don't start. And the way that I like to think of it is, let's just say you could zoom out and you had a master vision of your life, and it's going to take 10 years to achieve this dream. If you start today in 2021, you will have achieved this vision by 2031. But what if you wait till 2025 to start? That's only 4 years from now. And you're like, well, I need these other things in place first in my life. And I need more money. I need more this. I need more that, right? Then you're not going to be living your dream life until 2035. So start today. Today has never been a better day to start. I started with no knowledge of what I was doing. The only thing I knew about business was what I saw on Shark Tank. I was in business school, but it's quite different than the real world entrepreneurship. And so I threw myself into the fire. And this photo here is my first creation, which were these pineapple plates that encouraged healthy eating, which was the first product I created. And they were an epic failure. I spent $10,000 on these plates. I waitressed on campus for a semester, saving up all my money to buy them. And I borrowed a little bit of money from my parents. And I launched these plates, and no one other than my family and friends bought them. And I had many problems with the product, and I started to quickly realize that these weren't working. And it was one of the most difficult times of my life because I felt like a failure. I felt like I should just give up. Maybe entrepreneurship wasn't meant for me. But the truth is, the only way that you're going to become successful in whatever it is you're pursuing is to get back up every time you fail. And that's exactly what I did. And the next thing was creating this app that, before you go to the app store, failed, is no longer an app. So I raised money on Kickstarter for this app. I raised $20,000, which was a lot of blood, sweat, and tears, and launched the app, had like 200 beta testers on it. It was crashing. I had lots of problems with it. And again, I felt like a failure, but this time it was worse because I thought, well, I did get back up and try again, but I still failed. And maybe it really is time to give up. But something inside of me kept me going, and that was courage. And we all have courage inside of us, and we all also have fear inside of us. And ironically, that's what my TEDx is about. It's about building courage. And what I learned through the process of building my business is that what's important isn't to be fearless. What's important is to build our self-belief. So I spent the next year focused on personal development, which is how I am here today, teaching on personal development. This was back in 2018. And I decided, let me just try all of these concepts out in my life, do a little experiment, because what if they work? And that's exactly what happened. I had a major epiphany at the end of 2018, where I realized that my true passion and my true calling was to speak. And so I started speaking. And in 2019, I actually 10x'd my business revenue. It went from making only $11,000 in 2018 to making over $100,000 in 2019, simply from following my passions and not giving up. It led me to giving a TEDx talk, having a thriving coaching and speaking business, publishing 2 books, and the list goes on. And I am 26 years old, for the record. And I would have never been able to do any of this without personal development. So that's what we're going to dive into today. And specifically, I'm going to be teaching you the most important tools that have helped me, as well as helped the many clients I've worked with along their journey of whatever their vision is. So the first tool is about motivation. So first, I want to debunk some myths. So something I often hear people say is like, I'm motivated, or I'm not motivated, or I'm just not like you, Jaclyn. You're just naturally motivated, and I don't have that inside of me. Motivation is not something that some people are born with and other people aren't. Motivation is just like breakfast. When you wake up in the morning and you're hungry, you eat breakfast. When you wake up in the morning and you're feeling a little, I don't know about today, you eat brain food. And that is what your motivation is. One of the most important tools in my toolbox is consuming brain food daily. That means every single morning. We talked about your morning routine in that vision. Consume something. It could be for 5 minutes. It's not about time. We're all busy, right? Many of you have jobs where you work long hours, run businesses. We're all busy, but we can all take a little bit of time to consume brain food, because that little bit of time is actually going to make you so much more productive, so much more creative, so much more successful, and achieve your goals faster simply by doing that. So some examples of brain food. So some of my favorite brain food are books and podcasts, because they are really affordable or accessible. Podcasts for free, books you can get from the library, or you can pay, less than $20 on Amazon. So it's something that most people can add to their life. Also, other recommendations: documentaries, blog posts, YouTube videos, online courses. There's lots of things out there. With the brain food specifically, there's a lot of different categories and types of things you can listen to. So I wanted to really lay it out to make it clear what's going to serve you. So something that might help is stories of people who've achieved similar goals that you want to achieve. So when I first started my business, I listened to a lot of success stories about business. I listened to the How I Built This podcast, and I heard stories, and I still listen to that podcast for the record, of entrepreneurs who have built really successful businesses. As I got more specific in my business and I became a speaker and a life coach, I listened to stories of successful speakers, of successful life coaches, right? Because it's so inspiring to see someone accomplishing the things that you want to accomplish, because what it does is it sets an example of what's possible for you. It's not your competition. It's not that you're not good enough to be like them. You are so amazing. And if they can do it, so can you. And that's something you want to feed your brain. Something else that might help is just general stories of successful people. So it doesn't have to be your specific goals. You might listen to a story of someone who is an Olympian and listen to their stories of perseverance and getting back up every time they failed. that is incredibly powerful, and it's something that you want to feed your brain. Something else that might be helpful is educational content that's going to help you reach your goal. So it might be, okay, you are interested in learning how to do social media marketing. Maybe listening to a podcast about that so you can actually learn some tangible skills and tools is really going to help. And lastly, just general educational content about mindset, goals, anything personal development related. It's always going to serve you to fuel your brain with those things. So consume brain food daily, the same way you would consume your breakfast. Know that there's nothing wrong with you. You're not just unmotivated. It's actually something that is going to change your life because you will feel motivated every single day as you work towards your goals. The next tool that is incredibly important is journaling. So I was really anti-journaling for a while because I thought, this feels like a Dear Diary 6th grade situation. I don't really want to do this. So I want to map out what a journal really is for those of you who maybe don't have a journaling practice and maybe feel a little bit odd about starting a journaling practice. So what a journal is for, it's just a notebook. You probably already have a notebook. It's a place for brain dumping. So when we have so many ideas in our head about our goals and how we're going to achieve them, it's incredibly helpful to just write down all the things. It's a place for mapping out new ideas. So I'm constantly coming up with new ideas and mapping out a vision, mapping out a plan. Journal is a great place for that. It's a place for processing emotions. This is huge. If you brush something under the rug, a fear, a limiting belief, you've been rejected, you're disappointed, it's inevitable. All those emotions are inevitable on the journey to achieving your big dreams and goals, a worthwhile life. You're going to feel disappointed. You're going to be rejected. It's just part of the process. Being able to process those emotions is necessary. It is essential because if you don't, they will come up stronger. There's a popular saying, I don't know who said it, but what you resist persists. That's so key here because if you don't process these emotions, they're going to come up and they're going to come out stronger and more detrimental. But if you can work through them and release them and not allow them to hold you back from where you're going, that is going to help you achieve your goals faster. I choose to not allow limiting beliefs and thoughts about what I can't do and fears and confusion and any of these mental chatter that tend to cloud my brain to hold me back from my goals. So when those things come up, I journal on them, I let them go, and I move on because I know that I am stronger than all of those fears and all of those thoughts. And it's just human for them to come up, but they do not need to stop me from achieving my dreams and goals. The other thing about a journal that I love is writing down your goals and intentions. So we talk about morning routine. You can play around with what kind of morning routine feels good to you, but I love to write down my goals every single day because it reminds me constantly of what I'm creating and it helps me take the inspired actions and start to really make those dreams my reality by writing them down. Finally, a journal is really helpful to work through limiting beliefs. So rather than just processing your emotions, which is a key component, there's also something you want to do where you actually release an old belief and then form a new, better belief. Because here's why our beliefs matter. Your beliefs create your words create your actions create your circumstances. So look at your life right now. Whatever circumstances you have, things that you love about your life and things that you wish you could change about your life, they're all a result of your beliefs. So changing your beliefs will inevitably trickle down to change your circumstances. And that's why journaling can be really powerful. So I have a little exercise that I'm going to teach you that can be really helpful for this. So the belief busting process. So it's 3 simple steps. The first step is, what is the limiting belief? So you have to have some awareness over the fact that there is a limiting belief. How can you find this awareness? Patterns in your life. So if you find that every time you feel really happy, you are waiting for the other shoe to drop, or you fear that something bad is going to happen, that is a signal that there's a limiting belief here that I can't actually be this happy, something bad's going to happen, right? The example I gave on the slide is another limiting belief that you might face is this fear that you can't be successful and have time with your family, right? It's a trade-off, one or the other. Any trade-offs are usually limiting beliefs. I don't believe that we actually have to make trade-offs. Sometimes we make sacrifices for our goals in the short term, but the life that we get to live and that we're worthy and deserving of doesn't have to have trade-offs. So that's always a signal. Or anything that feels bad in your body, that's another signal. So your soul, your core, who you are, your heart knows the truth. And if you think of something like, I can't do this, or I'm not going to be successful at this, I'm not good at this, I'm not smart enough to do this, right? And it feels icky in your body, that's because it's not true, right? And your body is literally alerting you that that's a lie. And it's not true. And it's using the feelings in your body, those anxious feelings in your stomach, or that tight feeling in your chest to signal to you, this is a limiting belief that you can work through. So our bodies are pretty amazing that they do that. So when you realize that, step one is just write it down, be aware of it. Bring some awareness to what is holding you back. Step two, what is a new, more empowering belief? What is a belief that's going to set you up to achieve your goals? And usually it's pretty easy to figure out because it's often the opposite of what the limiting belief was. So in this example, I can have a successful career and plenty of time with my family. That would be a new, more empowering belief that I would like to believe. And then step three is, what evidence do I have to support this belief? So our brains love evidence. The more evidence we can give our brains, the better. So make a list of anything from your life. So any experiences you've had that maybe coincide with this belief, or a list of, for example, people in your life that you know that maybe have this new belief that you are choosing to believe, and you've seen that play out in their life. Or maybe people you don't know, maybe celebrities, maybe bloggers you follow, or influencers that have shared their stories, and you know that they live in alignment with this new belief. Just make a list as long as you possibly can. So some examples I gave here, maybe your Aunt Susan is successful and she's always home from work before 6 p.m. and she doesn't answer her email on weekends. Maybe there's a blogger you follow who built her own business and only works 5 hours a day. And maybe you currently love your job and, for example, make 6 figures and rarely ever open your laptop on weekends. So maybe you are proof already and you're holding yourself back, right? So when we go through this exercise, it helps us rewire our brain and form new neural pathways, which are essentially the pathways that our neurons travel on that create everything in our life, which will help us then use that belief equation where beliefs at the top and circumstances are at the bottom to change the circumstances of our life, which is incredibly powerful. You can, of course, do other belief work outside of just this process. And we could talk about it in the Q&A if a lot of people have questions on like belief work and other things you can do to help raise your self-belief, but this is a good place to start. Okay, tool number 3 is self-care. So this one is essential. You cannot achieve your dreams burnt out. When you are burnt out, you will be laying in bed or you will be a zombie in real life. It's not serving you. So self-care is really important. And it's something that you can decide that you're going to implement now. There's nothing holding you back. Most of these things are free. And they're things that most of us can create the boundaries for in our life. Some examples: getting 8 hours of sleep per night, exercising 4 days a week, morning routine, evening routine, bubble baths. That's kind of a fun Instagram-y one. Doesn't actually have to be that, but I put it on there because I like baths. Walks, taking a mental health day when you need one, setting clear boundaries, eating healthy foods that fuel your body, being kind to yourself, right? All of these things matter. And if I didn't have self-care and self-compassion, I would have never been able to get back up when I failed so many times because 1, I was burnout and I needed to take care of myself. And 2, I would have been so mean to myself that I wouldn't have had the courage to try again after I had failed so many times. So building this habit and this internal dialogue and these processes and systems that you put into your life, like your morning routine, like your evening routine, they matter. And they're an essential tool in your toolbox. And finally, the 4th and final tool we're going to talk about today is resilience. This one is more like a muscle you have to build rather than a tool that you can just pull out at any moment. But it's a muscle that we can all build. And I have some tips for you on how you can build it. So the first tip on building resilience is doing hard things. If you've never taken a cold shower, if you haven't showered today yet, you're going to take one tonight. If you already showered today and you're not going to take a second shower, you're going to take one tomorrow. Just one day, do it for yourself. I promise It's going to be super uncomfortable. And when you get out, you're going to think, wow, I can do hard things. No matter what life throws at me today, I'm good. I got this because I just did that really hard, uncomfortable thing this morning. What other hard, uncomfortable things can I accomplish today? So I always recommend anything that challenges you, anything that's uncomfortable. I did cold showers for a week as a challenge to really build this resilience muscle. And then after that, I go back to them any day where I'm feeling a lack of resilience. Maybe I've just had a failure. Maybe I'm feeling a little bit down. It happens. It's normal. I'll take a cold shower and I'll force myself to remind myself who I am, who is always inside of me and always capable. And something like a freezing cold shower does it. And for the record, you want to put it as cold as your shower will possibly go, like the first setting or the last setting, depending on how your shower is set up. That's how cold you want it to be. Another thing that you can do to do hard things is run 1 mile longer than you think you can. If you're not able to run, any kind of physical challenge that you think you can't do, and then push yourself a little bit. So if you think, for the running example, if you think you can run 2 miles, go outside and run 3 tomorrow. And you're going to prove to yourself that you can do it. You can struggle through that last 10 minutes or 15 minutes or however long it takes, and you're going to do it. And then afterwards, you're going to realize, wow, I can do a lot more than I thought I could. And I like to incorporate the exercise practice into my week. Every Monday, I take a really hard soul cycle class because it challenges my body so much that I know that whatever the week throws at me, whatever challenges I face in my life, I'm so strong, I'm so capable, I can handle them. And that is life changing. So think about how not only you can do these things once, but for the resilience part of your toolbox, how can you create habits of continuing to create more resilience? Second thing in resilience is positive self-talk. We've mentioned this now in 2 of the tools. So you know how important this is. I always tell myself things like, I've done much harder things than this before. Of course, I'm capable of overcoming this challenge. And the more you say things like that, the more that you believe them, because our brain's language is repetition. That's actually how we rewire those neural pathways. So the more you say it, the more you're actually going to believe it. The more you believe it, the more your whole life will change. So it's magic. And then finally, the third and final part of this that I think is really important for resilience is reminding you of your why. So this could be like a really specific why, like I do this work because I had this experience and this matters to me for these reasons. Or it could be that vision you had earlier. Like for me, I remember when I was first starting as a speaker, I pictured myself walking out to a stadium-sized audience with a message that was so powerful that at the end of my talk, I could only see the front row because the lights were so strong, but there was not a dry eye in that audience. And for me, that vision was enough. Every time I was rejected, every time something didn't go my way, every time I wanted to give up, that vision of where I knew I was going, my why, was enough to pick me back up. So you can actually use some of these tools like visualization and journaling and thinking about your why and thinking about where you're going as a tool, specifically in the moments where you're lacking resilience, to actually create that resilience, which is really, really wonderful. Now, something I wanted to talk about that I get asked about a lot is what happens if you fall off the wagon? You have all these tools, you're going for your goals, but what happens if you have an off day or an off week? You get back on. It means nothing about you. You make it mean nothing, and you decide intentionally, you commit to the fact that every time you fall off, you're going to get back on. It really is that simple. Jay-Z said, the genius thing we did was we didn't give up. The kind of person who sees O's and creates their dream life will never give up, no matter how many times they fall off that wagon. And it's a choice that you get to make. And you can make it right now in this moment that you are willing to get back up no matter how many times you fall off. You are the kind of person who sees this. Thank you. Now, before we go into the Q&A, I wanted to just quickly share first of all, if we don't get through all the questions, because there tends to be a lot of questions in Q&As, you can always DM me your questions on Instagram. If you want to learn more about goal setting, manifestation, positive mindset, I have a podcast called Spark Your Light. It has almost 100 episodes. So that's a great resource for your brain food. And if you want to just learn more about me and the work I do, you can find it on my website, which is JaclynDiGregorio.com. And now we're going to go into the Q&A.
Oh my gosh, that was amazing. I was like covered in goosebumps the whole time, and my hand hurts from just trying to write down all of your nuggets of wisdom. Thank you so much for just your vulnerability and helping us each build toolkits today. I think what was really cool and what I love about your approach, in the talk, and I've seen this mirrored in your book and in your podcast, is that you really work to inform and empower and encourage and inspire your listeners or readers, but it's also you always give us a practical way to apply that information, which I think is just so valuable. So I feel incredibly refreshed, and I kind of want to go through the visioning exercise again and really like take the time and put some additional thought into that. So thank you so much for walking through that. I'm going to invite everyone to start sending your thoughts and questions into the chat, and we'll get them to Jaclyn. To get us started, Jaclyn, I'm going to just kind of circle back to something that you had mentioned before. And what stood out to me was this kind of concept of comparison, and how comparison can be a really hard trap to not fall into. So do you have any tricks for kind of silencing that voice that pops up when we get stuck in a comparison cycle or even imposter syndrome?
Yeah. So I think it's really helpful to have like an affirmation or the new, more empowering belief you want to believe. So the belief that I choose when I feel comparison is, if he or she can do it, so can I. So the first step is awareness. So you have to recognize that you're going into this cycle of comparing yourself. And that awareness comes with time, being more intentionally aware of your thoughts. Eventually you're going to recognize it, right? You're going to feel crappy and you're going to realize, okay, I'm comparing myself. I didn't realize I was doing it for 10 minutes. The second thing that I do is I just say out loud, well, this isn't true. That is just my brain stuck in fear, and it's not true. This is the truth. And then I repeat the affirmation out loud. I literally talk to myself sometimes, and it's really helpful, but you could journal this if you feel funny about talking to yourself. Maybe you're at the office, you're not going to be talking to yourself, or maybe you will, who cares, right? But really just acknowledging that just because your brain thinks a thought doesn't mean it's true. And the most successful people that I found, like when I look at my clients, and the ones who achieve really, really incredible things versus clients who are a bit stuck, and they haven't yet achieved those incredible things that they desire to. The biggest thing is that the clients who go on to achieve their biggest dreams and goals, they recognize that they're self-sabotaging and they choose to shift faster. So it's like bringing awareness to the fact that this is comparison and it's not serving me at all. And then they might have the thought, but they kind of just push it away and say, I'm not going to think thoughts or feel feelings that don't support me in getting closer to my goals. Here's what I choose to believe today. And maybe you don't fully believe it yet, right? Maybe it still feels like there's a part of you that feels the fear, but eventually as you continue to do this self-development work, you are going to start to see a post on social media and think, wow, if she can do it, so can I. It's so awesome. I can't wait to be there. I can't wait to learn how she did it. I can't wait to do that thing. That's so awesome. And you're going to start to really feel those feelings. If you feel really trapped, you can also do some work with your subconscious mind. So that can be helpful. So most of our mind and most of our habits and basically like our whole world comes from our subconscious, not our conscious. So we don't even know we're thinking the things. That's where it gets dangerous. So there's a lot of tools for that. One of them is EFT tapping. So it stands for Emotional Freedom Technique. You essentially tap on different energy centers of your body, where you'll say an affirmation or a sequence out loud. So there's tons of free YouTube videos on it. You can just search like tapping comparison. There's this guy, Tap with Brad, who has like thousands of videos. There's also a lot of other people, but he's probably the biggest. And you will literally like follow along with this person, and you'll be tapping on these different body parts. It looks like this, and you will say out loud the things they're saying. So usually it starts with a release. So like, I acknowledge that I am stuck in comparison. Comparison doesn't feel good to me. I don't like comparing myself to other people. I am choosing to release this. I am releasing comparison. My new, more empowering belief is that I'm capable, just like these people are. And you'll go into this sequence. So that's something that helps. And it helps with your subconscious mind because those energy centers of your body tap directly into them, as opposed to just saying an affirmation like out loud. You're working with the mind-body connection, which is really powerful. You can try meditation, hypnotherapy. I have like a affirmations meditation on my website. It's free, on my homepage, that like you will say the affirmations out loud in meditation form, which sometimes helps. Visualization often taps into your subconscious, especially if you do it right before bed when you're kind of in that sleepy state. It's really powerful. So you can do a lot of these different tools to help. But on the surface level, when you're in the moment, I literally just basically stop. Gabby Bernstein calls it the choose again method in her book, Super Attractor. She says, choose again, choose a different thought. This thought isn't serving you. Call it out. That's not true. This is what I choose to believe, and move on. It doesn't mean anything about you that you have that thought. You're just human. We all resort to comparison because our ego is afraid and wants to keep us safe, right? But the core truth of who you are is that if someone else can do it, it's just proof of what's possible for you. And when you remind yourself of that, and then you take the action to put yourself in the positions where you are then that person who can create that thing in your life, that's where the magic happens.
Oh my gosh, I love it so much. Thank you. And I love that you're giving us, tips too, that we can layer, right? That you can kind of start here, but then we can continue to add on. And like you said, build this muscle and this resilience. I just think that's fabulous. So thank you. And just kind of in that same vein, one of the questions that we have here in the chat says, when someone has something in mind that they need to do to achieve a goal, what should they immediately do upon having that thought?
So need is an interesting word. I'm going to start there. I don't recommend using the word need. And maybe you didn't mean it that way, but it's something that's in our vocabulary. And I think it's really important. So I'm going to touch on it. So when you say, I need to do this, how does it feel in your body? For me, I feel stressed. I feel like I need to go write it on my whiteboard and like I'm frantic and I'm behind somehow, right? That doesn't feel good. The way you feel matters because the way you feel is emitting a certain frequency or vibration, and that is attracting what comes into your life. So that's how the law of attraction works. So it's like if you put on a certain radio station and that music plays, the same thing happens in your life. When you emit a certain feeling or energy, you attract that back into your life. So anytime we come from a place of need, we usually end up with more need and more lack rather than abundance and prosperity and achievement of all the things we desire. So the first thing is removing that word. So the word would instead be, I feel some options. There's lots of options, but I feel inspired to take this action step. I believe that this action step is going to move me closer to my goal. I desire to take this action step. This action step feels really exciting to me. And most people don't think about the need thing because I see it popping up. Like I didn't think about the word, but it matters. And your vocabulary is a great place to start. Like if you're like, I don't know where to start with all this mindset stuff, Jaclyn, you gave us so many tools. There's a lot. My favorite place to start, where I start with every one of my clients, is words. So what words are you using that are not setting you up for the life you desire? Does a person who has the life they want use the word need? Probably not, right? Because their needs are taken care of. So that being said, now that that's out of the way, action is wonderful. It is absolutely necessary to create success. And it's something that if you get an idea of like, oh my gosh, I need to do this, I call that inspired action, which is essentially an action step that you're really excited about. There's an author that I like called Richard Dotz. He writes about manifestation, and he describes inspired action as it feels like the most natural thing in the world. So it's like, yes, that's the thing I'm going to do next. And you're really excited about it. I always say, like, if it's something quick that can be done, like if you're like, I need to email this person, Just do it right away. If it's something that, hey, is going to take time, like you're like, for me, I might have an idea of like, I need to build this online course. Like that's going to take quite a while, right? I have to create the content. I have to record the videos. I have to do all the things. So that's going to be something that I'm going to write down somewhere where I'm going to keep my inspired actions. So I have a whiteboard in my office that says inspired actions list. I also have a note in my phone. So if I have an idea when I out and about, I'll write it down. I have boundaries, so I don't work on the weekends, which means I'm not going to act on it right away. If it's Sunday, I'm going to act on it on Monday, unless again, it's like a 2-minute thing. I might do it. So just write it down and implement it. It has to be that easy. We overcomplicate everything.
That's such a good reminder. I think, so often too, just writing it down, like you said earlier, even that brain dump concept, right? We get so much just information floating around in our minds that sometimes those great ideas become fleeting because we don't take the second to recognize it and put it down on paper and then come back to it. So great reminder and great question from the audience. And kind of something's been resonating with me, and Matt Higgins brought it up yesterday, and I read it in your book as well. It was this concept of burning the boats. And I'm just wondering if you could kind of chat us through an example of how you've applied that philosophy or concept into your business and how it could help others on their journey as well.
Yeah, I love that. Matt Higgins brought it up yesterday when he said that. And he said he's writing a book called Burn Your Boats, right? I'm so excited to read that. There's a chapter in my book, as Meghan knows, that I literally talk all about burning your boats. So if you don't know the metaphor, first of all, it is a metaphor from Christopher. I wrote it in the book. There was a war. I don't remember. I'm not a historian. I am a life coach. There are the exact references in the book, but there was a war many, many years ago. I think it was like the 1400s. It was something to do with Mexico. And the soldiers arrived. Oh, Veracruz. I remember. Is that Veracruz, Mexico? They arrived and their captain told them, burn all the boats. And they were like, what? Why? Like, how are we going to get home? And he's like, we're not going home. We're winning. And that concept can be applied to chasing your goals. It's basically like there's no plan B, right? And so it's something that I've applied tremendously. So when I started my business, there was no job. There was no backup plan. I didn't apply to jobs to have a backup offer. Like I was in college. It was my senior year. I was trying to build my business, very little progress. And then I graduated and I moved home with my parents. I made no money and I wasn't planning on ever getting a job. And I knew that this was my path and that I was going to do it. And while many times I felt fear and doubt and questioned, and even sometimes research, thank you, Chuck. Chuck gave us, thank you. Hernan Cortez, thank you. Thank you for sharing that. That's who it was who said burn your boats and who was the leader. I don't know even what the right word is for that. Anyways, so that was one way I burned my boats. I've burned my boats like so many times. It's almost dangerous, but I will never like put myself in real danger, but I've invested really heavily in my business. When I didn't have the money, I put it on a credit card. I found a way to make the payments. I made it work. Like whatever I thought was the next step for me, I was all in. And I'm not suggesting that you make any financial decisions that aren't right for you. But what I am suggesting is that you decide that there's no plan B for the thing you want, and you're going to find a way, make a way. It always works because you don't have a choice, right? Like I had to get my business to a place where it made money or I couldn't pay my bills, right? Like when I bought a house, I had to pay the mortgage. I had to pay the electric bill. I had to pay the water bill, right? And so that can sometimes serve you. Other times for other people, that might be like so much pressure and they totally shut down. But I think that we can all apply burn your boats in a way that feels aligned to you and in a way that works for you. And we're all different. And I think knowing yourself and knowing your strengths and your skill sets and what's a way you can burn your boats, it might be as simple as picking a deadline. Like I'm going to launch this thing by this date. I'm going to start this project by this date, no matter what. No matter how perfect it is or imperfect it is, this is when it's getting put out into the world. That's another good kind of strategy where you're sort of burning your boats.
Yeah, I love that. And like you said, just kind of knowing thyself and still getting, being uncomfortable and pushing yourself, but even starting with baby steps can just pay dividends over time. And it goes back again, I think, to building that muscle, right? And kind of pushing yourself out of your comfort zone. So I'm going to flip a little bit here. We have another question around identifying our passions. Life can get hectic. We get caught up in all the things, work, second job, whatever that hustle looks like. If you have kids, all of the activities that come along with that. How do we really step back and find what our passions are?
Yeah. So I think that naturally our passions are kind of revealed to us and like what we're meant to do by starting somewhere. So if you're super, super busy, can you carve out 30 minutes a week for personal time towards passions? And where do you start? Start with the first thing you can think of. You can't start wrong. That's one of the things that I did in my business. I actually had an idea for starting a business. I was working a corporate internship and I felt like something was missing for me. And I knew I wanted to start a business. And I set a deadline, as I just gave that reminder, that the day I moved back into college for my senior year, I was going to start. And so every day leading up to that day for a month, I wrote down a new business idea in a notebook. Still have it. Maybe another one of them I'll pursue someday, but I have 30 ideas there. And I just picked one. I picked the one I thought was the best one. And I started. And that's how I created my plates, my first product, which ended up failing, but led me to here. So I always recommend just starting because without my plates, I wouldn't have built my app. Without my app, I wouldn't have started speaking, because the way I started speaking was actually, I went around to colleges, specifically to sororities, and I spoke to women about my personal journey with overcoming an eating disorder in college. And I told them about how I built this app to help women, especially women in college, with their wellness. And it was basically a marketing tool. I didn't charge anything, but I spoke at so many different sororities and got such good feedback that I realized that I really liked speaking and I was good at it. So maybe that passion was something I should pursue, but I would have never, ever discovered that if I just didn't take any action at all and wondered, what is my passion? What business should I start? Maybe I'll just keep working until I figure it out. Right. Or keep, not dedicating intentional time to it until I figured it out. I shared something on my Instagram story today from Tom Bailu, and he's the founder of Quest Nutrition. And the exact words aren't coming to mind, but he said something to the extent of like, if you don't know who you're going to be 5 years from today, you're going to be the same person you are today in 5 years. And that hits differently, right? If you aren't intentionally creating your future, you're still going to be the same you. So if you aren't intentionally carving out some time to just kind of experiment with your passions, they're not just going to fall in your lap. They might, but it's worth getting started on something, whatever passion it is you have, letting it evolve how it evolves. And first of all, you deserve it. You deserve that 30 minutes a week for yourself to do things you enjoy, right? So that's a good enough reason in and of itself.
Jaclyn, thanks for giving us the permission, to give ourselves that time to carve it out, even permission to give ourselves the opportunity to experience failure, and really embrace what we can learn from that, because I think, opportunity is everywhere, right? And sometimes those things happen, like you said, to open doors or our eyes to other ideas that maybe we hadn't even thought about before. And, in thinking about that, and something else that you just said, just around, again, like giving yourself that time to carve it out. Maria asked in the chat, what do you do to fill up your cup?
Well, I'm going to start by saying, when you fill your cup, it overflows. This is something I'm really passionate about. I want you to imagine like a really tall, one of those tall mugs, and then a bunch of little teacups around it. And you're just pouring all the tea in and it overflows into all the other cups around it. So I love to use that analogy, rather than you can't pour from an empty cup because you're giving. I just get to fill me and it gets to shine out to everyone, because I know that when I feel good, I show up as a better person for my family, for my friends, for my clients, for my team, for everyone I work with, for the cashier checking me out at the grocery store, right? And so that's really important. So I personally fill my cup with my morning routine. That's the biggest thing for me. I am very blessed and also intentionally created a life where I have a slow morning. So I typically start working at 11:30 every day and I wake up at 7. So I take quite a few hours to exercise. So I always challenge myself. I either do Soul Cycle or yoga or go for a walk. I journal, I write down my goals, I listen to podcasts I love. I take it slow. I sip my coffee. I make myself eggs if I want eggs, and just really ground myself in like the beauty that life is. And that really fills my cup. So that would be the number one thing for me. And it's always when I'm alone. Most people probably think I'm extroverted because I love talking and I'm really outgoing, but I tend to argue that maybe I'm a bit introverted because I always fill my cup when I'm by myself. Maybe we all do. But the thing I will say is sometimes I don't share that because it can be intimidating for people like, okay, well, I don't have all those hours and I have to be at work at 9 a.m. So I want to say like, you can fill your cup in a short amount of time. Like you can fill your cup in 20 minutes, knowing the things that help you feel good. Like if I had, and some, for the record, also, like while I say this, pre-pandemic, I traveled almost every week speaking, and many of my days did not look like my normal routine. Sometimes I have to be at the airport at freaking 4 a.m. and Dunkin' Donuts hasn't even opened yet because they don't open till 5, for the record, in the Philadelphia International Airport. So sometimes it's 5 minutes and I journal. I use Rachel Hollis's Start Today journal. That's the journal I use. It's 10 dreams you made happen and 5 things you're grateful for. So if I take 10 minutes and I just journal, that'll be the thing. And maybe in the middle of the day, I feel like my cup is empty again. So I'll go for a 10-minute walk around my block one time because that's all I have before my next client call. Right. And so be honest with yourself. What do I have available to me right now at the place I'm in my life? And what do I know will fill my cup? That's what I would say.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you, Jaclyn. And I think, it's those intentional choices to kind of figure out where you can plug those moments in, because even the small moments can make a big difference. We have 2 questions left, and I think we've got 3 minutes, so we'll see if we can get through them. The next question is, it's so easy to fall into the comfort of routine and end up not pushing yourself to try new things. Additionally, it can feel scary to leave that comfort zone. Is there a small first step we can start with to get comfortable challenging ourselves to pursue those big dream goals that feel so out of reach?
Yeah, absolutely. So what I recommend is basically like doing some sort of like challenge that probably has nothing to do with your dreams, but is that going to get you out of your comfort zone? So it could be the cold showers that I suggested for a week, like something where you're going to actually like go challenge yourself in a small way, because what it does is it kickstarts this like muscle of like, oh, I can do hard things and I'm capable. I will say, I feel like I can't not say this. I have a mini course. It's like a 7-day course called the 7-Day Comfort Zone Challenge on my website, where every day I give you a different challenge. But I'll just tell you, one of the challenges is cold showers. One of the challenges is run a mile longer than you think you can, like I've already taught here. So you can do them on your own. You don't have to buy it. But you can just basically create like a week long or a month long or a day even to do something that's uncomfortable to jumpstart it. And then once you've done that, you can start to think about, okay, now that I realize that I'm capable of doing uncomfortable things and it feels good to get out of my comfort zone and I know I can do it, what do I want to change about my routine that's going to get me out of my comfort zone and get me closer to my goals? So maybe it's like, I want to spend 1 hour every Saturday morning on my goals, and I'm going to block that on my calendar. And, it's just that decision. And you have the confidence to make that decision when you've challenged yourself a bit and you kind of are on that high of like, I can do hard things. So that's what I would say.
Awesome. Thank you. And the last question is around what are your favorite development books or podcasts that you're currently listening to that you could share with the group?
Yeah, I love it. Okay. So on my Instagram, on the highlights, I have something called books, and I've saved every book that I have read recently that I've loved. So check that out. I will say like some of my overarching favorites in different categories. My favorite book on just like general personal development is You Are a Badass by Jen Sincero. If you haven't read that, it's a really good one that really resonated with me. My favorite book about wealth, if you are someone who desires to create wealth in your life, is Secrets of the Millionaire Mind. It's really all about mindset by T. Harv Eker. I really love the book, The One Thing, if you're someone who's multi-passionate and need to focus, because you can achieve all your passions, but it's easier to do one at a time and kind of pile them on and stack them. So The One Thing is really helpful. Those are probably the ones that I would start with. Podcasts. I like Catherine Zankina's Manifestation Babe, if you like manifestation. I like all of Abraham Hicks for Law of Attraction. They have a bunch of podcasts where they just play like clips from live events. I would say those are the main ones that I probably listen to. I mostly consume like manifestation and stuff. But if I ever listen to something really good that I like, I always share it to my Instagram story. Oh, How I Built This. I mentioned that earlier. I listened to that one too. I love hearing about how businesses were built and like really successful people.
Well, and I'm going to jump in here and plug yours, the Spark Your Light podcast, because I've been listening to that nonstop for the past 2 weeks and cannot recommend it enough. It's fabulous, inspiring, and I love that you have 19-minute sessions or 45-minute sessions, so you can really pick what's, best for you in that moment. Jaclyn, it has been an absolute honor and pleasure to chat with you today. Thank you for sharing your wisdom, your love, your passion with our audience. On behalf of the Millsummit, we're so glad that you've been able to be here. And so again, just grateful for your time and expertise. To our audience, we hope you enjoyed our conversation today. Don't forget to catch up with Jaclyn on Instagram and connect with her. And don't forget to pop over to Day 2 wrap up that's happening right now. And we'll see you all tomorrow for Day 3 of the Millsummit. Take care.
Thank you so much, Megan. Bye, everyone. Thank you for being here.